All right, here we go. OverDrive off and running. TSN 1050 on the TSN app. Your home smart speaker up on TSN 4. Bryan Hayes, Doug, Jeff O'Neill, Jamie Noodles, McLennan.
What's up?
How we doing? How's everyone feeling today?
I got a question for you. How's your inner groins?
Because of the walk? Is that what you're asking, or just out of interest?
I'm going to walk again. Mm-hmm. Mandatory medium to long length spandex.
Oh, you're going to do that. The spandex move. I like it.
Chafed. Like,
really?
Oh, can't even move. Awful. You need spandex if you're going to walk a golf course. You can't.
I don't understand that, though. Let me ask you.
Noodles, you can't do it with cotton underpants. You have to have spandex.
But do you like walk like Dorf on golf, like with your legs
Hey,
together?
you saw me. Don't I walk
normal?
somewhat normal?
It was a normal walk.
I got the quadzillas going. I need spandex if I'm going to walk ever again.
Yeah, you get some weird requests though, man. Like you get the triple stack underwear, and now you need spandex. You're high maintenance when it comes to golf. I mean,
no, I'm not, dude.
There.
Well, I mean, you get some weird stuff going on, like some weird requests. Like I got to be honest, I feel like I'm in a pretty good spot. I thought you meant like just up and down the hills, the hammies,
it's just
the
you
back.
can't do it with like just cotton Calvin Klein underwear. You've got to have spandex to feel good.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was hot. It was it was really hot. It's a lot of walking, the up and the down the hills. It can definitely be concerning. I understand what you're saying, but maybe you just, you head into, what do you have, a seamstress or a tailor or something and say, I got to figure this out. I had the triple stack a couple months ago, and now I need a new invention. You're like the Elon Musk of underwear.
I'll go see Joy down at Lakeshore there.
That's great.
She's going to doctor up some spandex walking shorts.
I love it. Spandex walking shorts.
Don't you wear boxers? Like, do you wear like the tighty whities marble bag?
No.
Well, if you wear boxers, it should be long enough for your boxers should be long enough for your legs not to be touching. Should they not?
No.
I'm trying to envision this.
This guy, there was a lot of chafing. It was
chafing.
There was a lot of noise coming out. It was good though, man. No complaining. Yeah, there was a Costanza. He had the suit that Costanza bought.
Remember when Costanza's pants were noisy? He was walking. Was this his pants or his shoes?
Yes, his pants. So he bought that new suit from the chef, and the chef got him back. And yeah, you got to figure that out, man. That's not good because I need you walking more, right? Like I need you to remain, like we said, your boy Mike Crapper. He's a walker, and he's inspired the whole world to start walking, including yourself.
And that grudge match is coming up in the next few weeks.
Yes.
Hayes versus Crapper. And watch out. He's probably going to have to get...
How is he doing? Because there was some feedback. Like Doogie put the clip out. Hayes and I were 10 years old laughing, looking like idiots. And, did he hear about it? Is he upset with us? Do we owe him an apology? I feel like I owe him an apology because...
No, Crapper's good about it. He just... I don't know. You guys had never heard his last name.
I figured it was like Crapcioli or something, and you call him Crapper. Like, hey, Crapper, how are you?
Yeah.
That's kind of what threw me off. Mike Crapper. It was very immature. It was silly, goofy, and we're moving on from that. But the reason I bring him up is because the point of this story, before Noodles and I took it completely off the rails, was he walked to a point where it didn't matter what he's wearing. It doesn't matter what the weather is.
He just glides along the grass, man.
Yes, he's a glider. You need to get to that status, right? Where it doesn't matter what you're wearing or what the weather system is bringing us. You're going to be comfortable. That's the next step for you. But yeah, there's some weird stuff going on with this weather, man. Like I saw today, some guy driving around, like the no-shirt guy in the car, and this guy was an older gentleman. I just don't understand the no-shirt. Like maybe if the AC is down, maybe, and I don't think he had his windows open, though. Like just no tarp, I'm going for a ride. I've never understood that.
You've got leather seats. I don't know how enjoyable that is.
It'd be
you've got
awful.
The old school material where I don't know. Dude, what I realized is Let that guy have his fun.
He can do whatever he wants.
That's
He's
right.
not hurting anyone.
People are so nosy these days.
But we
It's
don't
just
need
like
more
everyone's everyone else's business. Why are you doing that? Mind your own business. You're just curious.
I'm curious. Like, because if you don't have the shirt along for the ride, there's no spontaneous stopping.
The guy's Canadian. The guy's Canadian. He's been locked up all winter. He wants to get some fresh air, and he wants to suntan his upper chest.
Right,
Maybe
but it wasn't like he didn't have a convertible. The guy had a roof on.
Oh, then that is
driving a Gremlin. Yeah, he's driving a Gremlin.
I was under the understanding this guy was in a Benz convertible.
No, this guy was in like an Altima with a roof, windows up, no shirt. And he was in his 60s or 70s.
See,
I didn't understand that.
I expect Gino Reda. Gino Reda has a convertible.
Right.
If Gino's driving around with no tarp on, like it's 28 degrees out, so be it.
I respect
Gino Reda has his shirt off card. He is a card-carrying member. If I want to take my shirt off, he's allowed.
He's allowed to do that.
The guy in the Altima, I have no idea what kind of monkey business he was up to.
It was hot, man. It was hot. But
but you have air conditioning. The windows are up.
I understand.
So there is something fishy going on. Maybe he had wings at lunch and they spilled onto the tarp and he's taking it off.
Could have been the issue.
That's what I'm thinking.
Could have been the issue. He was on his way to a dry cleaner or something, but then you got to go in there with no shirt on. Anyway, we got a good one today. John Schneider will join us later this hour where, last night it didn't go well. We'll ask John to look back on his comment post-game where he said you tip your cap, and that is sports. Yeah. Like we always talk about it, there's three positions in sports, starting pitching or pitching in general, quarterbacking, and goaltending, where sometimes you just say, what do you want me to do, man? That guy, like he hit the corners throwing 100. It was tough. It was tough sledding last night.
It was a tough watch.
It was a tough watch. Yeah, it was a tough watch, and they never came. There was an opportunity for Vladdy to break the game, not open, but at least bring them back into the game. They had 2 on, 2 outs. I think it was in the 6th inning, and he couldn't get it done. And then beyond that, there really wasn't a lot of opportunity. They had 2 hits last night. The Jays just were not in it offensively. You heard some boos after the game. I don't know how many people. And it's not the first time, won't be the last time. There's a lot of frustration. And I'm sure John's frustrated, right? Like, I'm sure he's frustrated with what's going on. He's understanding of the heat. He's understanding of where people are at with this team. There's rumors out there. Like Mark Feinsand had a report yesterday about Vladdy and Bo, and suggesting that the prices are astronomical. And I think most people would say, well, of course. But I think what I find more interesting about that is that there's a price set. Like, if you set a price, if someone matches it, those guys are leaving. You would think.
Ask it.
Right? There was reports before Ohtani. I bring it up all the time. It's like a lot of chatter around Vladdy and Bo. It's like, what are you talking about? Those are the young studs of this team. But I don't know. To even be here having this conversation right now about those two guys, Bo especially, like I thought he was like the lockdown stud where it's going to be automatic good season after great season after good season. I don't know. There's just something. I mean, Hayes, you pay closer attention to baseball than the two of us.
Yeah.
But when I watch it, and I just like to pay attention to body language, and obviously things aren't going well, but it just seems like something's up, where it's like, how could so many good players not be underperforming offensively like that? Like, if you're talking about star players, big contract guys, going up and just dribbling baseballs to striking out to end, it's just like, what? There's just something up, man. I don't know how could so many guys be underperforming? It's a weird vibe.
It is.
And I always go back to one thing where it's like, maybe somebody hates somebody or somebody's pissed at someone. I don't know, but there's some negative mojo. It's hard to put your finger on it unless you're inside the walls.
Yeah, and ultimately that's the job of the manager, the GM, the president to figure that out, right? And you can only have access to what you see on the field. That's what we have access to. We can't have access to what's going on off the field, in the clubhouse, on the buses, on the planes, in the hotels, out for dinner. We don't know what's going on from that standpoint. But you look at the team statistics, like, it's not surprising they have the record they have. They're in terms of run score, they're tied for 28th in the league. They're tied for 26th in the league for hits. They are, tied for 26th in home runs. tied for 25th or 25th standing alone in team OPS. Like those, you're talking bottom 5, bottom 6 team
bottom
in the league in everything across the board. And then on the flip side, there are similar statistics when it comes to what they're giving up. You know, their team ERA, the amount of home runs they give up. Their home run discrepancy is really alarming. You know, they don't hit home runs, and they give up a lot of home runs. Bit of a concern in the power era of baseball.
Well,
you know, it's concerning.
Yeah. The one thing I was going to ask, I mean, if there's a sniff that they're potentially available, don't you think it's because the Blue Jays are taking a look at the future as well? Like, because Vladdy needs or wants a massive contract. So if you're not going to give him a massive contract, you might have to move away from that situation. Like, you're looking at the business of the game. You probably love the players and go, hey, want them to be lifers. But you also have to figure out, like, financially, where do they come in? What are these players at their peak? What is their potential? All of that type of stuff. So the business side, you might have to see what the marketplace is if they price themselves out in an ask for the Blue Jays on a long-term deal. Because Vladdy, what's Vladdy's next deal look like?
I don't know. At this point,
right?
It's very difficult to predict because, you know, it simply can't be that large. You know, like, you're going to pay the guy. He's an everyday ball player. You know, he's a marquee guy. You mentioned the marketing aspect to it. Sells a lot of jerseys, face of the team, him and Bo. But statistically, that doesn't scream a guy that should be paid as, you know, a top 10 or 15 player in the league, because he's not. And now is Bichette.
Right.
But it's a consistent theme in the city right now. Like, every team and every star player, they kind of just bleed into one another, you know, because it just happened. It's happening with the Leafs. It just happened with the Raptors, right? Siakam, forget it. We're done. They stink. Get rid of them. Move on. Right. And now Pascal, you know, they almost had that last night. They lose in overtime.
Good call on the spread.
That was a good cover. Although I was when it goes to overtime, you're like, watch, now the Celtics are going to blow them out. You know, they're going to win by 15. But, you know, you move off of Siakam, you move off Anunoby, who was great with the Knicks, and understandably, and you take a step back. But I think people are realizing now with the Raptors, it's like, man, this is going to get ugly for a while. Like, this is really going to get ugly. Yeah.
Sai said it himself. Could be 5 to 7 years in this league.
Exactly. Oof. And if you decide, okay, Bo and Vladdy, they can't work, they won't work, they're not going to work, or our timeline doesn't. The scariest comment, and this is not a comment that Ross or Shapiro or Schneider have made, so I'm not putting words in their mouth. But if it was concluded, it doesn't fit with our timeline. What that's saying is our timeline now is being reset, and we're 5 years away. Yeah, you know, because Vladdy and Bo are in their prime.
And maybe the big picture comment, Hayes, is they're very talented players, but when it's labeled their team, maybe they're not those guys. Maybe they're complementary superstars or star players where it's like they need a Bryce Harper to be front and center, and they just complement around that. When it's them that are the faces of it, maybe they're just not that good, or they can't do that. Maybe that I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud here.
I think that could be the case. I think that was
the case. You know what I mean?
Like,
they need
Siakam.
that Bryce Harper or Soto or Judge, and like that's the guy, and we'll be good around him.
So one of them's like a Phil Kessel instead of, like, you know what I mean? Like, Phil Kessel was a support player when it was all said and done, right? A really good one, but. You know, I look at it. I don't know. Are these guys stars, everyday stars, or we expect them to be stars because
Jamie Vladdy we thought he was going to be an MVP, a perennial MVP
48
candidate.
Dingers, 48 dingers.
And now you're like, will he ever get back there? And can he be the guy to lead the charge of a team? And right now the answer is no.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think that's something that needs to be evaluated. And if you're not capable of being the man, you can't be paid like the man. You know, that also all kind of comes together, right? Again, like I used the Raptors and Maple Leafs example. The Leafs are a bit different because Matthews, he is the man, yet in the playoffs, he hasn't been. You know, like Austin has not – he's got the same playoff record that the other guys do. You know, it's not like Austin has been – I was thinking about it last night with, you know, what you have to carry over into the playoffs. And, you know, Matthews is the clear-cut best goal scorer in the world, undisputed. He's not in the playoffs. He's not. Like, if you give me a game tonight, who do I think is going to score, Matthews or Draisaitl? I'm taking Draisaitl every single day. every single day.
You'd probably be taking Matthew Tkachuk or Sam Bennett.
I think I could give you 15 or 20 guys I might get to before Austin. And
because you've seen it. You've seen it from the other guys, right?
And I've seen him not do it, right? So the point, it's not like Austin's never made the dance and the team's fumbled for him, and he's like, man, give me the chance. Guy's played in the playoffs for 8 years. So, that's what Austin Matthews needs to be thinking. You want legacy, you got to get to a point where in the playoffs you're known as the best goal scorer in the world. And, but Marner, he doesn't want to hear this, I'm sure, but Marner feels like he's closer to Siakam, maybe closer to Bo and Vladdy, where, not the guy, and that is a legitimate question when you evaluate things. Yeah, you got to get it right. This is why it's so imperative. Atkins, Shapiro, Tree Living, Shanahan, obviously the guys with the Raptors, they made the decision to move off because they got Scotty and they said, screw it, we got our championship. I think they're an outlier because they won their title.
Right.
The Raptors can sit there and say, we did it. We did it right. And then we were good for a couple of years, really good for a couple of years. But now it's time to move on from that era. Okay, we get it. We're cool with that. We understand it. It was an unbelievable ride. The Leafs are in a different spot because it just feels like they're knocking and knocking and knocking, and they just can't get through it. Where the Jays, it doesn't feel like they're knocking. The Jays are, let's call it what it is. I mean, they're 21 and 26. They're not in a good place. Yet you don't want to just move off Vladdy and Bo and those guys go somewhere else and connect and make adjustments, and all of a sudden Vladdy turns into that perennial MVP.
One point on Siakam, Hayes. 1 point on Siakam. You saw how effective he was, and I talked about Vladdy and Bo not being that guy. Pascal Siakam, along with Kawhi, you're going to get what you want. Yes. You're going to get what you want every damn night.
Mm-hmm. But you needed Kawhi.
And Kawhi, the year after Kawhi left, he made a comment out in Portland, I believe, where he was like, I didn't know they wanted me to have the ball near the end of the game, like the last play of the game. And it was like, Kawhi's not here. What on earth are you talking about? Yeah. Who else are we going to give it to?
Right.
And he didn't know because to get to that next level of being the man who always wants it, at the right time, the biggest time, and to shine in those moments and take the chance of having failure, it's a way different level than just being a guy.
Yeah. It is. It's the most unique position in pro sports.
Yeah, and to be the guy that always dictates the kill shot.
Always does it. Always the guy.
Always wants to do it.
And wants it. Craves it, thinks about it, is pissed off it doesn't happen.
Yes.
You don't want to be around him if it didn't happen.
Right. And a real killer will say, why the hell didn't you give me the puck, the ball, anything? Because that's my time to shine. And a regular-ass dude will just go back to the bench and just say, oh, I guess we didn't do it. Mm-hmm. But a real killer says, that's my time. Why didn't you get me the ball?
Yep.
Well, they want it, and they crave that attention. They crave, to be a difference maker.
And they have the confidence noodles because they know they can do it, too. Right?
Exactly.
They know they can do it.
They can deliver. But that's where I come back to is you're trying to figure out if these two are the guys that you want to build around as far as financially. Like the business side of that is, are you going to give them massive contracts moving forward, or are you going to have to shop the market to move past them if you feel like you don't have the team around them or they aren't the guys to build around? And I don't know who else you'd throw in there. Manoah, at 26.
Yeah, it would have been last year. Manoah would have been a part of that program, absolutely. Yeah. And, to his credit, he's had 2 really good starts in a row. Like, that is a positive story for sure. But, yeah, I mean, that's what the Jays are dealing with, and they need one tonight, man. They haven't won a series in a month. You gotta string along wins, and you got to win series, and this White Sox team is not a great team, and you got after him a couple of nights ago. Last night it didn't go so well. It's a big one tonight. And then you hit the road, Detroit. You got Chicago again coming up. In Chicago, this is a big opportunity. This is a real make or break, because if you come out of this in a week and a half and you're 7-8 games under 500, the players have determined what the front office is going to have to do.
Yeah, unload.
The players make that determination. And if the players aren't playing well enough and the stats aren't good enough and the win column isn't starting to tick upward, It's natural in pro sports. Like, change is going to happen. The players are already acknowledging that. Gosman's already saying it. It's like, we got to get going, or this team's not going to be around much longer. Like, they're gonna start to unpack things, and that's a scary proposition because what we talked about with this White Sox team a couple of years ago, they won the Central Division. They were the up and coming team, and now it's like, what the hell happened here? And
it's like the rebuild from the rebuild, and it's insane.
You don't want to be in that position here. You don't want to be facing that reality where veterans are being traded and you're not spending money because then ownership's saying cut the payroll. If you're going to lose anyway, why am I paying this much money?
Right.
And then you're reloading everything. Oof. And then it's 3, 4, or 5 years.
Then you're a different version of what's in Oakland right now.
Yeah.
That's all you are.
Which is tough, man. It's tough. Kevin Weeks will join us later this afternoon. We will have our picks for the Eastern Conference Final and the Western Conference Final. The East starts tonight. Florida in New York playing the Rangers. And these series are going to be great. Like, you got Oilers playing tomorrow night down in Dallas. Just 4 great teams. Like, 4 of the best teams in the league.
And I like seeing some fresh guys. Like, someone new is kind of newish is going to be hoisting the cup this year. You know what I mean? Like, it's... Well, we said it from the beginning of the season. There's parity, and it's anyone's got a chance of these top quality teams to win the cup. Mm-hmm. And these 4 have emerged, and now it's going to be a different kind of captain, a nice, fresh look for somebody hoisting the cup.
That's a good point. You got
there is going to be a new champion. That's what it is.
Trouba, Barkov, Ben, McDavid. Like someone
different is going to be hoisting the cup in a month.
Yeah. I like it.
I'm glad I said that. That was a cool line.
That was actually a really good line, man.
It was a great point.
We're going to have a new champ.
I love it. We got some help, too, guys. My buddy Lummer sent, apparently, squirrel's nut butter is really good for chafing.
Okay.
Anti-monkey butt cream.
These just can't be real products.
No, I'm telling you, Kristen said anti-monkey butt cream is the other one.
That's not real. You're being duped. This can't be serious.
Yeah. The other person on the other line is like, I'm going to get this guy to say this thing.
I know, we're on national TV.
Chafe Safe is another one. I'm telling you, people are sending me notes. Safe. But Squirrel's Nut Butter, he sent the link on Amazon. I'm telling you.
I'm
there
not
it is.
Buying it.
Doogie, you've got to look for nut butter. You've got to look for some nut butter and have it in studio
My buddy Lummer is a firefighter from Edmonton. He's not going to steer you wrong. This guy's seen everything.
Okay.
He's with all the firefighters and sitting around saying, I just got that guy to say nut butter.
Right.
Nut butter on national TV. There
100%. You just got duped.
I'm going to watch. This moron's going to say nut butter.
Exactly.
He did it.
I guarantee you he's dumb enough to read this verbatim.
Yes.
Watch
Ron
what
Burgundy, exactly.
He just won $100 at the hall. Boys are like, I'll throw 20 on that. No way he's going to do that.
Yeah,
Lummer knows you. Lummer's your boy, and he knows what you're up to. All right, Kevin Weeks coming up. Jerry will join us. Jerry will be having the cup out in a month. 4 new captains. Someone's waiting, right? As long as the cup makes it there on time. You never know.
I remember Jerry in Chicago.
It was the best. During that flood. He was so mad.
So rattled.
Yeah.
So rattled.
So mad. The keeper of the cup came out with his gloves on. He was so rattled. So Jerry's percentages in an hour, but John Schneider's coming up next. His take on what happened last night, tipping the cap. Does he stand by that, or does he adjust how he views what actually went down last night? How big is the game tonight? What's going on with George Springer? What's up with Manoah, Vladdy, Bo? All that and more still to come. John Schneider will join us next. Overdrive continues, brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. We'll get to our best bets later this afternoon. Jerry's percentages in about an hour. Kevin Weeks coming up as well to tee up Panthers, Rangers tonight, and Oilers, Stars tomorrow night. We can't wait for that. But the Jays are back in action tonight, and they need a series win. You know, they gotta get off the Schneider. It's been an issue for them, stringing along wins. And last night didn't go so well, and it's a big one. Yes, it's middle of May. It's early in the season, but you got to get one at home against a White Sox team that is definitely ready to be pounced upon. And we're joined now by the manager of the Blue Jays. Here's John Schneider, and I guess we'll start there. John, how big of a game is this one tonight?
Yeah, every game's big at this point. You know, I know it is May. The goal is to try to win as many series as we can. So tonight, just like every other night moving forward, Definitely a big game. Doesn't matter your opponent. Doesn't matter who you're facing. You got to come out and be ready to go.
John, how badly do you want 10 positive press conferences in a row after wins? It seems like one night it's great, and then the next night it's like, what were these guys doing? It's been up and down almost every night. How badly do you want like 10 post-game pressers that are just positive victories?
That would be number one on my list right now, I think. I mean, you're saying the same thing over and over again. Really good at bats, guys were getting big hits, and our pitching and defense was good. That would be a very, very nice feeling over the next 10 days. Can't lie about that.
Well, I mean, last night, obviously, it was on the wrong side of it in terms of positivity. And, you mentioned after the game you got to tip your cap to how quality the pitching staff was on the side of the White Sox. Obviously, you're in the moment. You step up to the podium. That's your reaction, and they were outstanding. The starters were starter was great. The staff was great. Kopech came in the ninth, was lights out. The next day, are you still standing on that? You still tip your cap, or do you go back and review it and maybe adjust your view of how your game plan worked out and how the hitters approached it?
Yeah, for one, every night is different, right? No matter who the opponent is, every starter is going to be a little bit different. I think looking back at it, we only hit a handful of balls hard. Double, Jano hits one hard, Izzy and Ernie. And I think, from that you say, okay, could we have done a better job? Yeah, we could have. But it really goes into every single pitcher that's coming in a game, whether it's Brevia, Leisure, Kopech. There's going to be opportunities. I think what we have been good at is keeping games close, and what we need to continue to get better at is taking advantage of if a starter has his good stuff that day, okay. But taking advantage of each and every guy that does come in. Pitching is so good these days. A lot of these guys have good stuff. You know what I mean? So I think, saying you tip your hat last night, yeah. I mean, you can say that when a guy, anyone really has their good stuff, but you're going to be facing it, night in and night out for the most part. So, looking back at it, you give credit to a pitcher who has a good arm. Were there things we could have done a little bit differently? You could probably say that too.
Who is that on to realize that or make those adjustments? Is it on the players? Is it the hitting coach? Is it yourself? Like, at what point in the game do you realize, okay, we got a guy here who's throwing smoke, and he's confusing us, and he's got his ace stuff? Like, how do you handle the adjustments and eventually try to break through?
Yeah, ultimately, you formulate a plan before the game against the starter every single night, and you have to have the ability to adjust. I think that comes down to everyone, both coaches and players. Players have to realize what's going on. Coaches have to be there to deliver the information. I think anyone in this sport, or really anyone in any sport, can say, did you execute your plan? Yes or no? And if you didn't, was it the right plan? If you executed your plan and the outcome was bad, then you have to go back and say, was it the right plan? But really, it comes down to everyone. Ultimately, it's the guys that are out there performing. But I think making sure that the information is correct, which we feel good about. That's the hitting coaches, and that's all those guys. That's what they're getting paid to do too. But again, pitching is so good at this level. Hitters have to be able to make very quick adjustments, and you're going to get a handful of mistakes, and when you get them, you can't really miss them.
John, you talked about adjustments and coaching. When it comes to baseball, because you're at the stadium every day and it's games every day, do you tend to pull a guy aside, either he's playing well or he's struggling? Do you have a lot of one-on-one meetings, or are those kind of left for your coaches and you kind of manage guys and let them work out of things?
It's a little bit of both. I think, when you're talking about anything, technical or fundamental from a skill standpoint, that's the coaches are tackling that every single day, whether it's offense or defense or on the mound. I think me, I'm a part of that, in formulating plans. The technical part comes down to the coaches. But I have a ton of one-on-one conversations with guys, if they're going good or if they're going bad, just to kind of, take their temperature on where they are, how they're feeling physically, how they're feeling mentally. Sorry, excuse me. And that's what I do day in and day out. Whether it's a pitcher, whether it's a position player, that's my job to make sure that I know where everyone is on every single day.
With John Schneider, manager of the Jays, Blue Jays, White Sox down at the Rogers Center tonight. The word urgency that's the big word. That's the catchphrase everyone's using. You guys are talking about it. The media's talking about it. The fan base is talking about it. The reason it's here is because you're 21 and 26, and you're chasing the division. You're chasing the wild cards. We know, the nature of the sport, there's only so much you can do when you're in the box or you're on the mound. I mean, you're not going to naturally throw 101, 102 because you're urgent. If you can't do it, you can't do it. You're not going to hit 50 home runs because you're urgent. If you can't do it, you can't do it. But I'm curious what urgency looks like behind the scenes. What does that look like in the clubhouse? What does it look like on the buses, on the planes? Is it any different than everyday, operations? What is it looking and sounding and feeling like behind the scenes?
Yeah, I mean, everyone feels it, whether it's me or whether it's a player, whether it's, a clubby. Everyone feels it because of, where we are in regards to our season right now. So, I mean, really you got to control what you can control. What you can control is how you prep. What you can control is how you work. And then it comes down to doing it. It comes down to players going out there and performing. And it's a fine line between, we play every single day, unlike any other sport. So you can look at it one of two ways. There's opportunities to go out and do it every single day, or there's opportunities to say, okay, we're going to wait for it to happen. And I think that's what urgency is. We can't wait for things to happen. We can't sit around and keep saying, wait for the big hit, or wait for, a reliever to start being lights out, or wait for a starter to really get rolling. It has to happen pretty collectively, very soon. So, again, you don't want guys to go up there tense. You don't want them to go up there timid. You want them to go up there confident. And because of the fact that, there's a game every single day, it is a delicate balance between that. And I think sometimes that's the that happens naturally when you're winning more games. You know what I mean? And everyone feels a little bit less of the pressure and a little bit less of the urgency. So you really need a good stretch to kind of get you back to neutral, and then from that you got to continue to push forward.
I would say from afar, I think what looks symbolic to what you're saying, or I guess the move that kind of symbolized that the most, would be taking George Springer out of the leadoff spot, something he's owned throughout his career, something that saw him win a World Series MVP, massive contract. He came in here, he's a big leader for your team, clubhouse guy, everyday ball player. What kind of message did that send to the clubhouse when you moved George down the lineup?
Yeah, probably some urgency. I think, again, baseball being different, you have to have confidence, and you have to rely on your players that are in the clubhouse. And ultimately it comes down to them performing. I think when you get to a point, my job or any manager, coach's job is to evaluate what's happening and try to give your guys the best chance to win. And if that means moving the order, you move the order. If that means bringing in a different bullpen arm, bringing in a different bullpen arm. But I think, everyone here is a professional. Everyone here understands, what certain guys are doing and what the results have led to from a win-loss standpoint. So I don't think it was much of a shock to anyone. And ultimately, if we want to get to where we're hoping to get to, George ends up somewhere in the back of the top of our order when he gets going.
What is your analysis of Springer? Like what has happened here? Because his numbers obviously speak for themselves. Last year, statistically, he didn't have a great season. What are you seeing out of George at the plate, and how can he change this?
Yeah, I think it comes down to timing. It comes, hitters go through ups and downs. It's been unfortunate timing with a few of our guys here in the first part of our season. But you have to, you can do one of two things. You can say, all right, this sucks, and I'm gonna mope, or you can keep working and try to get better, and that's what he's doing. But when it comes to hitting, it's a constant game of adjustments. Pitchers are pitching him differently than they have in the past. He's working through that, and hopefully it takes a couple of good games to get him going. And when your timing and when your confidence does come back, George has shown that he's been one of those players that can carry a team, single-handedly on his back. So right now I think a lot of it is just, it's timing at the plate, being a little bit late on certain pitches. And everyone's human, too. Everyone feels, every player that either is or is not doing well, they feel that internally. So it's going to take a little bit of time to hopefully get him into a groove and get confident again.
With John Schneider, and obviously if someone's coming out of a role, someone's got to go in, and that's been Davis Schneider, who, when he showed up last year, was not a household name, made that incredible impact early in Fenway, and, really took it from there, and then, broke camp with the team, had a good spring, and was not necessarily an everyday ball player for your club early in the season. But I'm curious if you feel like he's established that for you. Is he a guy that you just naturally pencil in and he's going to play for you every day?
Pretty close to that, I still think that there are, there's certain skills and traits that you have to try to put guys in positions to succeed. I think what Davis has done is evolved since he came up last year and has made some holes a little bit smaller and given himself a better chance to have success against certain types of pitchers or certain types of pitches. I think when you recognize that as a staff, it just opens up that window to play a little bit more consistently. That's kind of where he was in the beginning of the year to where he is now. And, what I love about him is, his at-bats, whether he's hitting first or fourth or sixth or eighth, they're the same. So you kind of take that into consideration with where your club is overall, and you try to make the best decision. So he's been pretty damn consistent. And, he's going to have to continue to evolve as pitchers evolve with him. But he's done a good job of that so far.
John, you've been around the game a long time. Have you seen anything like the story of Alek Manoah? I mean, I know he's young. He's 26 years old. If you look at his last calendar year, it's certainly been up and down. He's had a couple nice starts here in a row. Where do you think he's at? Where do you think he's going to go? And have you ever experienced something like this in your career throughout baseball?
Yeah, you see guys kind of go up and down a little bit. I think in Alek's case, he's had two really, really good starts back-to-back after the first one in Washington. And his first couple years in the league were so good that I think the year last year gets magnified, and rightfully so. But I think a lot of credit goes to Alek the person and trying to tackle things head on and make some adjustments with his mechanics and kind of just his mentality when he is on the mound. And going forward, again, you want to see him continue to do what he's done his last two consistently. And that was the pitcher he was when he came up, back in 2021 and all of 2022. So I think knowing the competitor that he is and the person that he is, we have a lot of confidence that he's going to continue to go in this direction. And it has been a pretty drastic overhaul and a lot of work done by him and Pete.
John, you're talking about a lot of guys. It's like key members, Manoah, Springer, and you're talking about adjustments and coaching. I think it's fair to would you agree? It's fair to say you just need some of your or numerous key guys to just play better, and then you guys will get on track. Is that fair to say? Everybody can talk about what guys need to do, but I think you said it best, where guys just need to get out there and do it on a consistent basis, and not like depth players. Your key guys need to be better.
Yeah, that's any team in this league. Every team is built a certain way, and you're relying on those guys to go out and do what they normally do. And then I think the role players, you try to put them in spots to have success, and they need to understand what their value is to the team. But it's no secret. We need our starting pitching to be good, and we need our main offensive guys to be, at least the normal version of themselves. And, hopefully, it's been very weird how inconsistent it has been to this point. And, really still, you're never going to lose confidence in the guys that are here because they're going to take you as far as you're going to go, So it really does come down to, taking some ownership and accountability when you're going about it every single day, which these guys are doing. And I think that's where, you can get frustrated as a manager, or a fan base can get frustrated, all that kind of stuff. But it ultimately comes down to the guys that are on the field and getting big hits at big spots and making big pitches and making big plays. So until we do that consistently, I think that's when you start seeing us get on a little bit of a roll.
With John Schneider, and we've been pretty deep into this conversation. We haven't mentioned Vladdy and Bo, and yet they've been the poster boys of your club for years now, and they've moved up and down the lineup, in different spots. And I saw a crazy statistic earlier today. I think John Morosi tweeted out that you have not had a home run hit from your cleanup spot at any point all season. No one in the cleanup spot has hit a home run all year, which is just a wild statistic. But you look at Vladdy, you look at Bo, like they're capable of so much more because they've done it in the past. What are you seeing out of them specifically that speaks to what you just talked about? The leaders, the best players, they got to be the best players that lead you to believe maybe these guys can turn a corner, are turning a corner, and once you unleash Vladdy and Bo, maybe everything else falls into line.
Yeah, I think you look at just the game 2 nights ago. Bo has 4 hits and 3 doubles, and Vlad's on base and has an RBI single and 2 walks. I think if you look at Vlad over the past month, he's been really damn good. I know the home runs haven't come in bunches yet, but hitting the ball extremely hard and having really good at bats. That's what's been encouraging about Vlad. And Bo, Bo's got about as good of a track record as anyone in the league. He's led the league in hits before. It's kind of one of the certainties of this game is that Bo Bichette's gonna get his hits and do some damage. So I think when they really get going, and Bo's hitting the ball harder this month than he has his entire career, which is very encouraging. And it's no secret. It's kind of as they go, so do we. And hopefully they can really get rolling here. Like I said, every game is important. Every game is urgent, and we're going to need those guys to go out and be themselves.
Well, it's a big one tonight down at the Rogers Center playing the White Sox to wrap up this series. Then you hit the road in Detroit, back to Chicago, Southside playing the White Sox. Enjoy it tonight. Best of luck, John. We really appreciate you doing this, and we'll do it again down the road.
All right, guys. Thanks. I appreciate it.
There it is, John Schneider. Jays White Sox tonight. Yeah, they need one, man. They got to get going. He knows it. You can hear it. He's trying to find a combination. I mentioned that Morosi stat, or that he found. It's not his own stat.
That's a wild stat, though.
Not one
no homer
hitter from the 4th spot in the lineup, the cleanup spot, all year. No one batting 4th.
How do you make an assessment? How do you make an assessment on what these guys are when a lot of their top quality players aren't playing well? So is that just what they are, or is it? It's just hard to make an assessment. It's like, are they a bad team with good players playing poorly, or what the hell are they? It's hard to identify with these guys of what they actually are right now.
Well, and it's wild. Like, when you're winning, you can see a lot. Regardless of who the players are, you're going to like the players, right? That team's won 10 in a row, whatever the sport is. You're like, I like that guy. That guy's situated perfectly. And if they're losing, you're like, I can't see anything positive here.
Dude, last night, watching that game last night with star player after star player going up, it's just like, this is not nothing. This is a tough watch, man. It's unlikable.
And that's the thing about, baseball, like the cleanup hitter, generally he's going to get a pitch because Vladdy hitting seconds on base or Bo hitting thirds on base or in scoring position, and you can't pitch around him, or you can't make his life that difficult.
Dude, even Justin Turner, who was dynamite to start off the season,
completely
fallen off.
One for 27 or something, but he did get one the other day. Wasn't it last night that he got one?
Not last night. No, it wasn't last night. A couple nights ago.
It was 2 nights ago, yeah.
He's got 4 home runs on the year. He had 2 against Kansas City a few weeks ago.
Right.
But, yeah, it hasn't gone great, for Turner since a hot start. But
yeah,
we'll see. We'll see what they got tonight. Kevin Weeks in about 15 minutes. Jerry's percentages at 5:30. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. All right, Kevin Weeks, Jerry's percentages still to come. We've got Stanley Cup playoff action tonight. The NBA playoffs continuing. The Jays are in action tonight. Lots going on here. Lots going on.
And somebody just wrote in and said, what if it's just one of those off years for the Jays? Well, what was last year then? Like, they got in and it ended miserably, but they weren't exactly dynamite last year.
Well,
like they're just trending towards. They went from World Series favorites to just puttering out here, and it's like there's something up.
when does it start to creep into? Remember, we were saying it's still early. Like, when are we going to stop that?
We blew past
that. Like, it's
2
not,
months into the season.
Yeah, we're almost 50 games in now. I mean, we're a third of the way in almost.
I know, but there's still a lot of games left. Like, that's
absolutely.
the thing. So where do we start to go? This is what they are.
I guess the All-Star game. The trade deadline still. Technically, it's a couple months away.
Everybody knows what they are,
but
guys.
You know who
you think John Schneider doesn't know what they are? You think Ross doesn't understand that? Steve Phillips said when we first talked to him in spring training, this is a lot of mediocrity, I'm afraid to tell you. And it was just true. It was truthful. That was his assessment, and he was bang on.
Yeah. They're missing some pieces, and even the guys that had monster years last year. What's happened is they've yo-yoed back. And that's the thing. You can say, what if it's an off year? What if last year was just a great year for certain guys?
Kidding. Tim Kirchin described their off-season moves as confusing, right?
Yeah,
that's the kind of language that was used to describe these guys, and nobody was wrong.
Yeah, and that's the position they've found themselves in. So could they dig out of it? Sure, they could. But here's another option. It could get worse.
That's right.
It could go the other way. And then there's, screaming towards like 60 wins, 65 wins, 70 wins. That's a different conversation than we've been having, even with how they've struggled early in the year. Kevin Weeks on the Eastern Conference Finals, Western Conference Finals. We'll have our picks courtesy of FanDuel still to come as well. And Jerry's percentages coming up. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.